Hello, what's up guys? Welcome to today's tutorial, Python tutorial for beginner series. So they'll be learning about string manipulation, everything you need to know about string manipulation, from what a string is, learning the literals, everything that you need to know about strings in Python. You will learn in this video today in Python tutorials for beginner series. So stay tuned. Okay, so guys, welcome. So as I said, in today's video we'll be learning about string manipulation, everything that has to do with string manipulation. Okay, so you remember in last time I actually released a video on string manipulation, but it was just like it was shallow, it didn't have so much, so I thought I'd actually release another one that will actually be fully packed with enough info to get you guys started with Python. Okay, so in today's episode on Python tutorials for beginner series, we'll actually be going through 9 main concepts. Okay, so the first thing that we'll actually be doing, we will be defining a string, or be giving the definition of a string, what a string is. Number 2, we'll learn how a string works in Python and how to declare a string in Python. Okay, and number 3, we'll learn about string literals and what they actually are, everything you know about a string literal. Number 4, we will be determining the length of the string. We'll actually want to learn how to find or determine the length of a string that we're working with in Python. Okay. Number 5, we will be learning about multilinear strings and how to actually execute multilinear string in Python without actually facing challenges. Then we'll be concatenating strings. We'll learn about indexing. Number 8 will be slicing strings, and number 9, which is the last concept that we'll cover on today's video, will actually be the method with strings. Okay, so we'll learn a bunch of methods. There are actually very many methods. I'll actually teach you guys some very important ones, and I'll actually show you guys how to access all the remaining methods in Python, so stay tuned. Okay, so first things first, we will be starting with the concept number 1, which is defining a string, or definition of a string. So what is a string? Okay, so a string is literally anything in Python that's actually written inside the quotation marks. Okay, that's a string. Okay, so let's say I actually write something like string, sorry, let's say name equals to string. Okay, so actually what's in the quotation marks, which is the word string, is actually a string. Okay, it's a string. And how do you know it's a string? Okay, so you see Python has this built-in function, which is actually the type built-in function. It's actually declared as so type. Okay, so if I wanted to like check what type of data this variable had, I'll just do like type, I'll put name in as the argument. So I want to print it out. Okay, I want to print it out so that we can actually see what's in this. Okay, so if you run this, you'll see right here, so class stir. So for now, take the class. Okay, when you see this class, just take it as an abbreviation for, or just like a word that stands for data type. Okay, and this stir is just like is string. Okay, it's just in short form, or in a way that Python actually defines it. Okay, so now that we've learned what a string is, so how does it work? Okay, so how does Python know where a string starts and where it ends? Okay, so how do you actually declare a valid string? Okay, so this is actually what we'll be learning next. So, and this actually brings us to concept number 2, how a string works in Python and how to declare a string. So if we go back to this string that we actually declared in line number 1, okay, in line number 1 we actually have that string right there. Okay, But what tells Python like, hey, this is where string starts and this is where it ends, okay? And why is it ignoring the quotation marks? Why is it not printing out the quotation marks when we actually want to print it out? Okay, so let me actually show you what I mean. Okay, say print name. Okay, print name. There we have it. Okay, let's run this. So you see what it prints out. It just print out the word string just like the way it is. Okay, it didn't actually print out these quotation marks. Why does this happen? Why does it work like this? Okay, so that's where we're going to be learning right now. So how does a string work in Python? How does Python recognize that this is actually a string? Okay, how does it differentiate? Okay, so I'm actually going to be adding another variable with another string. I'm actually going to put it in slightly a different manner, okay, but all in all it's just the same. So let's say we have, let's say football, okay. This time I use double quotation marks on each side, okay. So if I were to print name 2, okay, if I were to print name 2, there you have it. It printed out football, but it actually ignored the double quotation marks at the beginning and at the end of the string football. So why did this happen? So this is where we're actually going to learn how Python actually is able to deduce that this is a string and this is where it starts and this is where it ends. So you actually, what you see here is that these quotation marks right here, they are actually called delimiters, okay. So they're called delimiters. What does a delimiter is? So when Python is actually starting out here at the front, okay, it actually sees this quotation mark and it's like, okay, so what it does is like, okay, so that's where my string starts. That's how Python interprets this. So that's where the string starts. So Python will actually be looking for a second matching delimiter so that it can conclude that this is where the string ends, okay. So by that's actually how Python goes on with this. That is why, and that's actually the same for this variable as well. So the first delimiter is the double quotation mark, okay. So Python will be looking for another double quotation mark so that you can know that this is where a string ends, and everything in between is actually what to be printed out, what is to be worked with, and like that, okay. So what if I say like let me just go to variable number 1 and I'd be like that's my dad's ball. Okay, I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing what's happening right here. You can actually see some red, okay, though I'm actually going to print it out so that you can actually see what really is going on here. So let's print it out, wait for it. Okay, there it is. Okay, look at this, it's actually giving out an error. It's like, okay, names invalid syntax. So what's happening here is that, okay, Python, the way it actually worked, when we actually cleared this string, it was like, okay, so this is our delimiter. So what it was doing is it was looking for another delimiter so that it can conclude that this is where the string ends. And as you can see, this arrow right here, it is just after we've actually used a quotation mark, which is a matching delimiter to the opening delimiter, okay. So from here, Python is actually like, okay, so this is my string, but wait, what the hell is this? Okay, because it can see that some things are still happening here, and it's like, so what is this? So Python doesn't actually know how to interpret that, because it's actually not the way it's programmed to be. So if you actually want to use, okay, if you actually want to use quotation marks within a string, you have to make sure that the quotation marks that you are actually using in the strings are not similar to your delimiters. Okay, have to make sure they are different. And how will I show? Let me just go to variable number 2 and actually just copy this, and let me just copy that and paste it right here. You can see there's actually no error being given out. Okay, so let's print this out. Wait for it. Okay, it's actually trying to run the first variable, so let me just comment it out. Okay, and let me run this again. Okay, you can see there we have it. That's my dad's ball. Okay, it doesn't have any problems interpreting this. Why? Because our delimiters right here. Okay, when it started interpreting this line, it was like, okay, this is the first delimiter, the double quotation mark. So it was actually looking for another double quotation mark to conclude the string. Okay, so when we use the single quotation mark in between, it actually didn't have any problems with it because it's not matching with the opening delimiter, so it's not it. That's not the end. Okay, so I bet from this point of view, you actually are able to actually see that how this Python is able to interpret a string and actually work with a string. Okay, so the next thing that I'm actually going to be showing you, and by the way, you can actually do a reverse of this. What do I mean? Like, let's say we have a name3. Let's say name3 equals to that's my dad's ball. Okay, so okay, this is pretty weird way of writing, but I'm trying to show you that you see, like right here. Okay, so Python just wants to know the opening delimiter, and it will be looking for another matching delimiter. So if you like use opening delimiter, which is a single quotation mark, and use double quotation marks within your string, there is no problem, so long as the opening delimiter and the closing delimiters are unique in the string, meaning they are not used within the string. Okay, so that is how that's how a string works in Python, and that's how we actually declare a string in between the quotation marks. In between the quotation marks, you declare your string. Okay, just make sure that your delimiter is different. Okay, is unique. You're not using your delimiter in your string, because if you're doing that, we'll run into an error like I showed you in the first variable, which right now is commented out. Okay, so that is how you would work with a string in Python, and that's how you actually declare a string. Okay, so next concept that we'll be working with, that we'll be going through, is string literals. So what are string literals? So string literals are like, okay, so you're like declaring a string like the ones that we just did here. Okay, but you are declaring the string within your code, so it means that this string you wrote it yourself in the code. Right here, name2, name3, these are actually string literals. Okay, so by now you might be confused. So what's not a string literal? A string literal is like when you get input from the user. You never wrote it out in your code, you just got input from the user. Sorry, it's a string, but it's not a string literal. So a string literal is just merely what you actually wrote in your code. Okay, so like I wrote that's my dad's ball. I actually wrote this in the code, my code. Okay, so this is a string literal. But when I actually get user input, like let me show you, let's say name2 equals to input. Let's say what's your name? What's your name? So with this, okay, with this actually I want to print this out. Okay, so print name2 then I actually be printing out the data type. So what type is this? Okay, just want to see, is it a string or is it something that we've never heard or seen before? Okay, so let us run this. So it will prompt us. So let me write my name right there. Okay, so Said, you see right here, so it printed out my name like we asked it in line 3, and it actually returned that this is actually a string, but it is not a string literal. Okay, so this is a string, but since it's from the user input, you actually didn't write it. See, I didn't write name, I didn't actually write my name here in name to like write Said and then tell it print my name out. I just asked it to get the user input, and it got the user input, and actually it printed that out. Okay, so that's actually all you need to know about a string literal. Okay, that's all you need to know about a string literal. So the next thing that we'll be covering in today's episode, we will be determining the length of a string. The length of the string. It's actually pretty important to know how to determine the length of the string in Python. Okay, you may be working on a program where you're like, okay, I want the user to input their email address. Okay, but you're like, hey, wait, an email address have like a minimum, like say it should have like a minimum, I don't know, maybe 7 characters. Like it can't go beyond, less than 7. Like let me just try to put this out and see. Let's say 1 at gmail.com. Okay, so let's sorry, 1 at gmail.com. Let me just put this in a string. 1 at gmail.com. Okay, so you might actually want to, during verification processes, sometimes you want to get the length of the string that you are getting from your user. Okay, you want to make sure that sometimes, well, your user is not actually frauding you or is not inputting values that should not be put into your system. Okay, so if and by the way, when you want to actually determine the length of the string, you actually use the len function right here. Okay, you can see that's the len function. It's a function. Okay, so that's what we'll be using to determine the length of our strings. So I want to determine the length of the string that we have right here. So is email. Okay, let me just run this, and it's like, okay, there are 11. Okay, so I guess the minimum for like a valid Gmail account should be like 11 characters, though I'm not sure if actually they actually allow a 1 character name. I'm not sure, but like you don't want to have something less than 11 characters, because literally if it's less than 11 and it's the Gmail account, it's like they're probably technically definitely trying to mess up with your system. Okay, so determining the length of a string can actually be a pretty important thing. But wait, let's try to do something here. Okay, so let me just like put it an empty string. So before I actually run this, I want you guys to actually pause the video for a second and actually try to guess like what value will it return. Okay, so wait for and pause and just like like you can even write in the comment section below what do you expect the output of this to be, because the email is actually empty. Okay, and we're actually trying to find the number of characters within that empty string. Okay, so let's run it. It returned 7. Wow, it returned 7. So what's happening here? You see, in Python. Okay, in Python, even an empty space, even a space is a character, is considered to be a character. Okay, so this you might think is an empty string. Literally it is not an empty string, it is literally a string in Python. Okay, so You can't actually say that that's an empty string, because it is not an empty string. As you can see right here, we have A7. Okay, so an empty string goes like something like that. It doesn't have a space, it has nothing. Okay, that is an empty string. It has 0 characters in it. Okay, so you gotta be careful when you're actually trying to do validation purposes, validation coding and stuff. Okay, though I'll actually teach you how you can actually work with the spaces in this tutorial, but in the last concept topic. Okay, so that's how you determine the length of a string. Okay, and talking of length, what if you have a really long string? Okay, what you have a really long string, how do you work with it? Okay, so when you have really long strings, I'll actually go back to refer to the PEP8, which is actually the Python enhancement proposal. You need to know that the Python enhancement proposal isn't a rule that you have to follow. Okay, it's merely a recommendation. Okay, it's a recommendation, but it serves to make your code easier to understand, not only for you but to other programmers as well. Easier to read, makes it appealing, like good looking and stuff. Okay, so what if I have a really long string? And by the way, according to the PEP8, a single line should have 79 or less than 79 characters with spaces included, meaning that the spaces are also counted, like I just showed you right now from the line, that the spaces are also counted in Python. Okay, so a single line should have 79 characters or less than that. Okay, but say you have actually a story, like let me just do like meaningless stuff, like let's just save time. Okay, so I have this. Okay, but my story is still continuing. Okay, so in situations like this, by the way, in PyCharm you actually have this line right here, which is actually guiding you, on the PEP8 rule or PEP8 recommendations. So you can see right here that you have a line which you should not cross. Okay, when you cross, it means you're actually violating PEP8. So when you're in a situation like they just use a backslash, then you hit enter like that. Okay, so what's happening right now is like sorry, you can't actually see it. Let me put it down. Okay, so you see what Python is actually doing, is trying to do something, but let me, okay, so like that, and you are like just continue, okay, just continue. Okay, just like go and you're like, okay, I'm at the end. Okay, you like do that. Okay, so it's actually trying to like do something about this, but we actually got this covered. So this is actually what you do. So just at the end, you actually just put a backslash and you can continue with whatever you're writing. Okay, so that's one way of dealing with multilinear strings. Okay, so strings which are actually longer than 79 characters. That's actually one of the way that you can deal with it. So how long is this? Okay, so it has 266 characters, pretty long. Okay, so is there another way of dealing with these types of strings, multilinear? The answer is yes, there is another way of actually dealing with them. Okay, so you can actually just do like, okay, so we have like, okay, let me just do it like quick. Okay, from there just put enter. Okay, and that is actually what we say, it's like a PyCharm way of dealing with this. Okay, so you just press enter and you just keep on going, and if you like try to check out the length, is 265, we're off by 1 character. So that's actually how you deal with a multilinear character. We also have another way. The other way is you can actually use triple quotes, triple quotation marks. where you like, okay, let me just really write things that don't really have any meaning. Okay, and let me just put enter. You can see what happened. Didn't put the backslash. Okay, so this is another way of actually dealing with really long paragraphs and stuff. Okay, so just press enter and you keep on writing your way out. And so if I run this, you see it's 373. So seeing that it actually returns that number of characters means that this string is still connected. Okay, so in that way you're actually dealing with multilinear strings. Okay, and sometimes you might actually need to work with multilinear strings. So if in case you're in a situation like that, that is how you deal with multilinear strings. Okay, so the next subtopic that we're gonna do today is concatenation. Okay, so concatenation. So what is concatenation? Because it's really pretty, I don't know, it's a really tricky word. So concatenation is literally adding two strings or combining two strings together. Say I have string name, it has my name in it, Saidi, and I have string 2, let me just say name 2, and it has my other name on it. And by the way, I think I should start with the uppercase later when writing my name. It's pretty basic. Okay, so I have name. Okay, let me just give like a name 1 so that's actually more profound. So, okay, so I have name 1 and name 2. Okay, and I want to combine the things. Okay, so I'm like, let's say full name variable equals to, so in combining you just use the addition sign, literally you just use the plus sign. So how do you use this? You're like name 1 plus name 2, and that is all you need to do to actually add in strings. But the output that we are actually going to get after doing something like this is actually something that you didn't expect. So let's run this. You see it has Saidi Alex. Actually it joined this, it didn't leave a space. Okay, and this is actually something that you can really solve. It's really easy to solve. Either you put a space, but a space is a character in Python. So if you were to run it like this again, you'll have a space. Okay, and another way is like you can just have a space right here. Okay, and that's how you can actually do it. Or you can actually have in a string right here. So I have, okay, so in between right here I have that space. Okay, remember here I didn't put any space in name 1 variable and name 2 variable. So if I just put like a string with a space in between, it's like I'm adding 3 strings. Okay, this one being with a space. So if I were to run this, you can see right there it prints out my name, Saidi Alex. It has a space in between, which is this right here. Okay, so that's how you concatenate strings in Python. Okay, so that should actually be it for concatenation. So let us go to subtopic number 7, which is indexing. Okay, so most of the times you actually want to know how to deal with indices in your code, in your program, in whatever that you're actually dealing with. Okay, so you actually want to know how to deal with this string. So next thing that we'll be learning, which is the seventh subtopic, is going to be indexing. Okay, so in most of the time when you're doing Python, you actually want to know how to deal with the indexing. You have to know how to find the index of a character and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm actually just going to be dealing this. Okay, so how do we actually find how do we actually index strings in Python? Okay, so let's say we have name 1, right? Let's say we're dealing with the name 1, variable. Okay, let me just be using the print statement so that you can actually see the result down here. So like, okay, so name one. Okay, so name one, let's print it out. What we get my name Saidi, right? So I want to know what's the index of S, what's the index of A, what's the index of I, D, and I. Okay, so in Python you have to know that indexing, okay, indexing starts from, what do you think? What do you think it starts from? It actually starts from 1. Okay, let's run this. Oops, it does start from 1, does it? When we try to find the index of the first, of character at index 1, it actually give us A, which is the second character, concluding that in Python indexing starts at 0, and it's probably the same in most programming languages as well. So index 0, we're supposed to get S. Okay, so right here, if I wanted to get the value of the last character, judging there are 5 characters in this variable, I'll actually be doing a 4. Okay, so find the index of the 4th. Okay, so I get I, which is the last character. So right here you can actually see that indexing starts with 0. So if you were to start with 1, you'll actually be going in with an error. Okay, you actually concur an error, like you'll be off by one. Okay, so that is how you actually find the that's how you actually find the index of characters in a variable in Python. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do, okay, so is what if we want to find the index of the last character? Okay, like what if I don't know what the index character, what the last character has? What if I do not know the index of the last character? What if I do not know the length of my variable? Because if you don't know the length of your variable, it's really difficult to get the last character, okay, its index. So the easiest way to get the last character in whatever string that you have is just do a -1. Okay, and if we actually had a -0, that's how we would have started. But sadly in mathematics we do not have a -0, so -1 goes. So -1 is the index of the last character in a string in Python. So I'll print this out so that you can actually see what I mean. So right here you can see, like, we got I, which is the last character, by doing a -1, and it goes on like that. So if I wanted to get the first character using the negative method, I'll actually just be doing a -5. Okay, -5, I'll get the S, cause we actually started with a -1. Okay, so I bet you are actually, you're actually getting what I'm saying, because you started with -1 and the variable has 5 characters, so probably you're actually counting it the way it's supposed to be counted. You start with a 0 like we did in the first method. You are actually like the last character will be like a -1. Okay, it's pretty tricky, but it should not be that tricky once you get the hang of it. Okay, so that should be everything you need to know about indexing. So probably there are other things that you learn as well about indexing, but if you actually see something that actually is different, or you don't know how it works, you can just put it down in the comment section below and I'll answer you, or even make a video about it. Okay, so the next concept that we'll actually be learning is slicing. Okay, so why does slicing comes after indexing? It's because in slicing we're actually dealing with indexing. It's like if if it's like there wouldn't be any problem if I actually would have put slicing in as a subtopic of indexing, okay, because in slicing we'll actually doing we'll actually be just using indexing techniques to slice strings. Sometimes you need to slice strings, friends. Sometimes you really need to slice those strings, okay. You need to slice it really well, okay. So how do we do slicing? So in slicing we're actually using the indexing method, as I said, okay. So let's say, okay, but we'll actually have a friend right here, a semicolon, okay. So let me print this out. It's printing out the entire thing, right? So the semicolons has two sides. Have the first side right here, the first side, and the second side, okay. So the first side signifies where your indexing starts from, okay. So remember, the first character is 0, so I have a 0 right there. So it means that I am starting indexing from 0, okay, from 0. So if I were to run this, you still get the same thing, because you actually index from 0 to, I did not define the end, meaning it will go all the way through the entire string, okay. But if I like declare like the end, let's say this actually has 5 strings, but I told you like you started indexing from 0, so name 1 probably should, the last character should actually be at index 4. So I'll actually put index 4 and let's print it out. What's happening? You can actually see just printed out Said, okay. So why did you do that? We strictly specify that you should print out from index 0 to index number 4, okay, which index number 4 is supposed to be the last character in this variable. So this method works is that the first side of the semicolon right here, okay, this number is inclusive, okay, and the last number is exclusive, meaning that the last at the other side of the semicolon, okay, what you actually put is a boundary that will not be touched, okay. So in other words, if you want the entire thing, you actually have, because it's exclusive, whatever right is exclusive. So if you want it included, you have to go further than that, okay. So if you were to print this out, you see it has printed out the entire thing, okay. And you can actually do the same with negative indexing, okay, which, let's say I want to print from let's say from -5, which is the first character is still printing Saidi, to -3, so you can see right there. So right now, if the negative method is actually pretty complicated, because you actually have to do some calculations, but if you're comfortable with it, you can still use it, okay. So that's actually how you can slice a string. You can like cut it basing on the index of your string, okay, basing on the index of the characters in your string, okay. So that's how you can actually deal with it, okay. So another way to actually work with this is like you can actually slice using, I don't know, I think that should actually be pretty much it. But yeah, if there's anything I'm leaving out, because I feel like there's something I'm leaving out, if there's anything I'm leaving out, I'll actually probably make a video about it, or just like modify this video with whatever I feel like I'm forgetting, okay. So next, which is probably the last topic in today's episode, we will be dealing with methods. So we will be learning about the methods that can actually work with the string data type, okay. So what methods can actually work with the string data type, we'll actually be learning in this topic. Okay, so remember I just remember in topic number 4 we talked about determining the length of the string, and I said that we were actually using the len built-in function. I call this one a function. Okay, but this time I'm actually going to teach you guys about methods. So what's what's the difference between a function and a method? So actually we're learning that as well. So a method starts with a full stop. You can see right here we have so many methods. Okay, so many methods, and this is actually the cool thing about PyCharm. Okay, so if you like just do a full stop, okay, full stop on a string, okay, don't press enter, just do a full stop. You can actually see probably all the methods that you can actually use with a string. As you can see right here, you actually have the names of the methods, and you can actually see that these are for the data type string. So all these are here for you guys, you can use with a string. So the first one that I'll actually be teaching you today, guys, I'll actually be teaching you the start with and the ends with. Okay, the starts with and the ends with. So starts with. Okay, so what does the start with do? Okay, the start with is actually when you're actually trying to see if a string contains something. Okay, if a string starts with something. Okay, by the way, we are getting something here, like we're getting a line right here. So what does it mean? It's like in methods, okay, in methods, like for instance the start methods. So the starts with method, let me just rewrite it to show you guys something. Start with, so you actually have its self, prefix, start, end. Okay, so it's, you actually need to input in it some arguments. Okay, so I want to check, okay, if the starts with, if the starts with, I want to check if the name 1 actually starts with a letter S, if it starts with character S. So if I do this, if I were to run this, it returns a false. But why? Name 1 does start with an S, but why is it actually returning a false? It is returning a false because Python is a case sensitive language. Okay, so Python really can't tell, I can't say, literally can't, like, you know, say s, lowercase a s is similar to uppercase s. It's like in Python these are two different things. Okay, so if I were to do like, does this start with the uppercase s? So if I were to run this, you get a true. Okay, and by the way, true and false are types of data in Python as well. They're called Boolean values or Boolean types data. Okay, and we'll actually be learning it in future tutorials in Python tutorials beginner series. Okay, so does it start with s? It does. Okay, we actually have a true, and right here in the argument you literally just don't have to, like, you know, put in a single character. You can actually put much more. Does it start with psi? Okay, let's run it. You have a true. Okay, so does it start with something? Does it? Yes, true. Does it? When it doesn't, you actually get a false. Okay, so the next thing you can actually use the end with, and probably just after explaining to you guys how the starts with method works, I'm probably sure that you can actually deal with or work with the ends with. So does it end with I? True. Does it ends with D? False, right? So actually you can see right here that's the output we're getting. So that's how you work with the starts with and the ends with methods. Okay, so the next method that I'm actually going to be teaching you guys is the upper and the lower methods. Okay, so what does the upper method does, and what does the lower method does. Okay, so let me just try to show you guys. So upper, okay, that's really big upper. So upper, you can see right here, before actually like put anything, you can see right here we actually have upper in brackets self. Okay, meaning I actually don't have to put anything in here. Okay, I don't have to put anything in here. Okay, so it's referring to to the variable right here. Okay, so if I were to run this, so it actually changed first variable into total uppercase letters. Okay, so you can see that, right? And so you probably by now can actually figure out what the lower method will do. Okay, so if I were to run this, everything is in lowercase. Okay, so this, okay, so from the two previous methods that we actually learned, the starts with method and the ends with method, plus the upper and the lower methods, we can actually form something in between. Okay, let me just give you a quick question. Okay, so I want to print out this. So starts with SA. Okay, this is what I want. Okay, this is what I want to print out, but how do I actually do this? So this is actually a query for you guys. I want to print this and I want it to return true because it actually does starts with an S and an A. Okay, I want it to return true. So what do I do? Pause the video and come up with a solution. Okay, pause the video for now, come up with a solution. Okay, I bet you paused the video, you came up with your solution. So let's see my solution. Okay, so technically if I were to run this, I'll get a false. Why? Because I told you Python is case sensitive. Okay, so literally it should not start, we should not try to, we will never find a matching for this. So what I do right here is I just do the dot lower method. Okay, so in other words, Python will actually be transforming this into total lower cases. So if I were to run this, I'll actually get it true. Okay, so this is very handy when you're dealing with user input, because sometimes you don't know what they're going to start. Some users actually write their names in lowercase and you're like, you want to like get their names in your database as uppercases, so you actually convert whatever they put in your code into uppercases. Okay, so let me just try to show you that. So let me just do user equals to input. So I'm prompting the user to give me your name. So what's your name, user? What's your name? Okay, so remember I told you this is actually a string, though it is not a string literal. Okay, so I can just do what's your name. So whatever the user input, I just want it to do an upper. Okay, so whatever the user throws in at us, we're ready for him. Okay, so let me just do a user. Okay, let me print user. Okay, so if I were to run this, okay, my name is Saidi. So I'm actually trying to mess with this system. Okay, let's see how clever these guys are. Okay, Saidi man. Okay, so there you have it. Oh my god, so you can see Python actually handled this. This is actually pretty rough input. You don't really want to have a user who inputs data like this, but in Python we're ready for them. They can just bring in the crafty inputs and we're ready for them, right? So that's how you can actually use the upper method and the lower method. Okay, so there are pretty much so many uses for these methods. So the other method that I'm actually be teaching you guys is the strip method. The strip family method. Okay, so why do I call it family? Because you actually have the R strip, L strip, N strip. Okay, so you're probably confused, what the hell is this guy talking about? So I'm like, okay, Saidi, So many spaces. Let me leave it like that. Remember, in Python, this is actually something. Okay, this is actually something, and when you actually want to find, let's say I print the len of the name1 variable, also not name2, name1 variable. If I print this out, you probably already expect that it will actually bring us something really big. Okay, but this is actually irrelevant, because these spaces to us human beings literally do not and should not mean anything, right? So I actually want to strip this. Okay, so stripping, what it does is just removes the white spaces. Okay, so the white spaces are actually removed by the stripping method. Okay, so we actually have this R strip. R strip removes the white spaces on the right of the, okay, the right side of the string. So if I do right here an R strip, let me just do the name. Remember, we're actually working with the variable. Okay, I mean the string itself. Okay, so dot R strip, R strip. Okay, there we have it. Let me run it. Right now we have 5 characters. Why? Because all these white spaces were removed by this R strip method. Okay, so the L strip, on the other hand, okay, the L strip, what it does, it removes white spaces from the left side. Okay, so if I were to run this, you actually have 20, because it's trying to remove spaces on the left side, but there are actually no space on the left side, so let's deal with the right side. Okay, and the overall strip method, it removes the white spaces from both sides. So if I were to run this, I actually get a 5, because it's actually trying to check other spaces on the left side or other space in the right side. If it finds either, it takes them all away. Okay, so these are the strip family methods. Okay, so what I'm gonna be teaching you guys next is the title method. Okay, so normally, okay, when you guys think of a title, it'll be something like this. So title, let's say title 1, let's say just title 1. It will be probably something like, you know, like let's say camel story. I mean, like camel story. Okay, let's say just camel. So it starts with an uppercase letter and it goes like that, right? So what if, okay, what if, let's say like I have this camel, let's say just totally in cases, this is not like suitable to be a title. It's not like it's not suitable to be a title. So if I do a dot title, okay, so this will actually alter the string. So let me just like specify that I actually want to be dealing with the title 1, and actually I have to remove the len right here, because the len will actually just print out the number of characters. If I were to run this, you have camel right there. So it's actually putting this in a way that actually be considered a title. You want to have this when you're actually doing like a blogging app, okay, where you have users write, you know, the title of the blog. Sometimes they may forget to like put something in total in like lower cases, and you're like, okay, so this is not right. You actually can help them with the title method. Okay, so the extents of these methods, you can actually try them out from home. You try them out, and anything comes up, you feel free to put it down in the comment section below, and I'll be glad to help you guys out. Okay, so sometimes you might want to check first before actually messing up with somebody's input. Okay, so you have this .is dash methods. So this actually will return boolean values, because from here you are actually trying to check, okay, you are trying to check, is it really that? Okay, so since we actually know the lower method, I'll actually try to check, is title 1 dot lower, is it lower? Let me print it out. It is true, because all the characters in title 1 are in lower cases. But what if I actually had an uppercase in here? So if I were to print this out, you'll get a false, right? So in sometimes you actually want to do something like, okay, I have a user input. Okay, so first of all, check, is it uppercase? Say they're inputting the name, is it in uppercase? Yes. Okay, leave it the way it is. No, change it into uppercase. Okay, so we actually have dot is dash 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 methods. Okay, actually pretty handy and pretty useful. Okay, and lastly, like I said earlier, you want to discover the methods that you can actually use with the string. Just press full stop, don't press enter yet, and wait for this like a suggestion stuff. They'll just appear right in front of you, and you can actually experiment with each and every one of these. Feel free to actually ask me in the comment section below about what something does, because there are pretty much many of them, and you can actually try to explore them on your own, one by one. If you meet any problems, feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy, more than ready to help you guys out. So until next time, I probably feel that I should actually conclude the video by this time. Actually, I think that should be it for today's video, and I hope you actually gained something in today's video. So if you actually enjoyed this video, you can actually give us a like button. I mean a like. Yeah, and and subscribe to Raxan7 Channel and hit the notification button so that you can get notified whenever I upload any new videos. So until next time, stay safe.